question number 2. Dan will go first. Listen to this closely. Question number 2. One of the hotly debated topics in rural Northeast Georgia is access or lack thereof to reliable broadband internet. Educating all of our students through online learning has reinforced this need. Tell us your plan to increase access for both business and residential customers to this much needed resource. Dan Gasaway goes first.
Well, one advantage of being in the legislature for 6 years as I was, this has been an issue for that 6 years. I was fortunate enough to vote against some protections that were tried to be put on to protect Windstream about 5 years or 6 years ago now, to prevent them from competition. We're incrementally improving. There was some legislation passed this year. I don't know if it's passed now. It was in process and looked like it was going to pass to reduce the poll tax so the EMCs could not charge as much to put wires on the poles, which would certainly make things better. I know that this can be better than it is. I know the lobby efforts that are blocking improvement in our area. As a state representative, you don't have as much influence as you do as a state senator. I used every bit of influence I could as a representative to try to make things better for my area. And in my area, it has improved. I mean, I have 200 megabyte service at my house in rural Banks County now. So I know it's possible for all of rural Georgia. And I want to continue to work on it. I have a record of working on it. I have a record of making this an issue. And hopefully as a state senator, I will have more influence to continue to fight the lobbyists that are preventing rural Georgia from being properly served.
Thank you, Dan. Andy Garrison is next.
Very good. Thank you for that question. You know, during this pandemic, we have found in the rural areas of Jackson County, we've had have to have school buses with hotspots move throughout the county just so our children could get online, if you will. One thing that I would do is we need to broaden this not only for our education for our kids, but also for our small businesses, not only in Jackson County, but throughout North Georgia. The USDA Rural Development Program and Ms. Joyce White has a reconnect program that we should be taking advantage of. This puts out millions and millions of dollars for this exact situation. I want to say there's like $500 million, and in our North Georgia counties, I don't think anyone has applied for it. So this is free money. It's down through the CARES Act, through the government, that we could tap into to broaden our broadband, to make it a more powerful thing that we can get out there to our students and to our businesses, and we can have the government pay for it. The money's out there. We just need to apply.
Thank you, Andy. Stacy Hall is next.
Well, thank you, Tim. This is a great question because this is one that is really at the heart of rural Georgia. I can tell you, we live out in the county in Habersham, and my 2 teenage kids have had to do homework many, many times by using their hotspot on their phone because their internet wasn't working, which can be very frustrating for them, as well as the teachers when assignments don't get done. But I can tell you, my time in corporate America has taught me one thing, that companies will do what they're incentivized to do. So I'm a free market capitalist. I believe in competition in the marketplace. I'd like to see us incentivize competition in that space. And I realize that there is a lot of barriers involved with initial capital. It's a very capital heavy business model. But let's try to incentivize competition. Let's try to incentivize behavior for these businesses. Maybe that's through tax abatements. Maybe it's through something else. But I believe if we can incentivize Windstreams and others of the world to expand and make more investments in their infrastructure and through new technology. I think that would be a big part of it as well, and implementing that new technology. It'll make a big difference, but it's certainly an issue that everyone's battling and we need to work on. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Tricia is next.
Well, I have an 8-year-old little boy who is in 2nd grade, and every day he has to log into the his school Google Classroom in order to try to complete his assignments. And I will tell you that we struggle every single day with trying to get access with the internet provider that we have. It is impossible. So the frustration that you were talking about and the huge problem that you're discussing is impacting households across Senate District 50. Unfortunately, this is not something that is new. For example, the Georgia Senate has been working since 2015 or 16 in order to try to find a fix for this. One of the things that we have discovered through watching the Senate committee investigative tools is that the houses are not being counted correctly. And what I mean by that is that if there is one house or one residence in a particular area that it has internet, the entire geographical area is considered covered. That's not accurate. We all have to work together, and me specifically, being elected to the Senate, will work with the Senate in order to make sure the definition of who is getting internet is correct, and then also working to try to fix the problem. Reducing the poll taxes, that's one thing, that's great. Having competition in the area, that's wonderful. The capitalistic view of having competition, which will drive down prices, but also increase services, is a good thing. And so there are ways that can be accomplished, and it is my goal and my desire and my pledge to work on that particular issue, not only for our children who are having to go to the local Chick-fil-A or a bus hotspot, but also for businesses like my own small business that relies upon that same internet in order to try to accomplish my daily tasks.
Thank you, Tricia. Lee Moore is next.
Thank you for that question. That is a tough question. My wife is a first grade teacher, and for the last several weeks, I have seen her frustration with the students that she has not having the availability for internet, and not having the availability to continue to get this e-learning. They're having to do packets, take home packets and all. So it's a huge issue all across District 50. And, it's something that I'm amazed. It's 2020, and, friends, neighbors, farms, businesses, and families are suffering due to the lack of connectivity. This is very concerning to me. I feel like this is a necessity for education, businesses, healthcare, and our farmers. Expanding broadband connectivity in our Scenic District 50 in Northeast Georgia, it will bring an economic awakening to our region, because it will help communities like ours improve educational experiences and track more and better business and industry, provide better jobs and for the next generation. And the biggest thing is, I feel like if we can do some things with this broadband, it will help encourage our children to stay here in Northeast Georgia and not go elsewhere to look for jobs that pay well. Some things that I've talked with some friends at the state capitol in the last several years is looking at partnering up with different entities like your EMCs or Georgia Power, and put some things that are already owned by either county or city governments, and be able to spread Wi-Fi or broadband that way. So there's a lot of things out there that need to be done, and I feel like it needs to start from the top, and the top is under the Gold Dome.
Thank you, Lee. Bo Hatchett will round out round number 2.
Thanks. I think one of the issues is competition. I know several people have said that before, but we need to, increase the competition in that market. I think we've come a long way. I remember growing up here, coming up, you would have to dial in for the internet, and if somebody picked up the phone and knocked you off. We've come a long way since that. However, it's still a problem, and this pandemic, I believe, has exposed that problem. There are kids that didn't have access to fast Wi-Fi, and I think the libraries in our district and business owners in our district had stepped up, and they boosted their Wi-Fi and allowed people to use their internet access in the parking lot. That just shows the type of district we have, where we care about our neighbors and we're willing to take care of each other. Now that this problem's been exposed, I'd like to see competition. I'd like to see incentives for companies to widen the scope of broadband access and fast internet access to their customers. I've got a friend who lives at the cul-de-sac at the end of a neighborhood, and the trail wave runs right up to the beginning of the neighborhood. But if he wants fast internet access, he's got to pay $10,000 to have that line run all the way to his house. I think that's an issue, and we need to figure out a way to incentivize companies, whether it be tax breaks or something else, to incentivize that so that more people can have access, especially in North Georgia.
Thank you, Bo. All right, that completes round number 2 here.